friends! I'm here because I want to share a very special recipe with you all today. My name is Desiree, aka Mama Friendly, and I am on a quest to delve further into my Cuban culture. If you've been following my channel and watching the cooking videos that I've put out, particularly this year, you might notice that I mentioned that a lot, that I'm trying to connect more to my Cuban culture, learn more about the foods that I love eating, learn to make them myself, and so on. I am very lucky that at my age I still have both my grandmothers with me, and they are a wealth of knowledge both as far as culture and of course culinarily speaking. My husband recently requested boliche, and my grandma Raquel, my mom's mom, makes delicious boliche, but I had never made it myself. So I sent her a message on Facebook and said, hey, I really want to learn how to make this. Can you call me and tell me? Can you send me a video? Something. Instead, she wrote out the entire recipe by hand and left it on my doorstep because grandmas always go that extra mile. She actually gave me two versions of the recipe, one using beef and one using pork. And while they're both absolutely delicious, the one that my husband requested specifically was the beef recipe, so that's the one that I'm going to be sharing with you all today. Now, in case you don't know, and I don't think you would if you're not Cuban, boliche is basically like a pot roast, except it's stuffed with chorizo. And it is just, oh my gosh, so good. If it's made right. If it's not, it could just be a tough, rubbery mess. So hopefully I'm able to stick to Abuela's recipe faithfully and I can churn out something as delicious as the one she usually makes. Oh my gosh, she even included a diagram on how you're supposed to split the beef to stuff it. I can't. She's so cute. My grandma has shared a recipe on my channel before, by the way. If you'd like to see her actually make pollo almendrino with my mom, I'll post a link to that video up here in the corner. But with all that being said, let's make some boliche. Here I am ready to go with my recipe. So the first thing we're gonna need is 3 pounds of meat. And my grandmother just wrote 3 pounds of boliche, but it turns out it's an eye roast or a rump roast. So either one of those works fine. So here is my meat, and I've got all the ingredients in the background for the marinade. The marinade is supposed to be at least for 3 hours. I ended up leaving mine overnight, and you do need the chorizo before you start the marinade so that everything's going at once. Her instructions said to perforate the meat either with a meat tenderizer like a mallet or with a knife so that you can make sure that the marinade actually sinks in. So I just went old school and did it with the knife. And what I'm doing here is opening a hole in the center of the roast. This is where you're gonna stuff your chorizo. So you want the hole to be deep enough and wide enough to accommodate at least one of these sausages, although if you wanted to, you can put both in there. So after thoroughly washing my hands and finding a vessel big enough to hold everything, which in my case ended up being a salad spinner without the spinny bit inside, I'm gonna actually create the marinade now. So for this, you're going to need 1 onion, 1 pepper. I prefer the green peppers, a bell pepper, but you can pick whatever color suits your fancy. 3 cloves of garlic, a quarter cucharadita, so a quarter teaspoon of black pepper, and 2 bitter oranges, although I'm using the bottled stuff and I'm using just enough to cover the meat. And you're going to chop everything up roughly because it's not going to end up in the final recipe. It's just to provide flavor to the marinade. So just chop it up however you feel. Throw everything into the vessel. I have minced garlic here, and you guys know if you've watched any of my cooking videos, I never measure garlic. So I just dumped in whatever looked good to me. And this is going to sit with the meat, like I said, at least 3 hours, or in my case, overnight for optimum flavor. It's the next day, which means it's finally time to cook our boliche. So for the first step in this part of the process, my grandmother says that you should take 3 strips of bacon, chop them up, and fry them. Then you're going to remove the bacon from the pot, and you're actually not going to use the bacon at all. You're going to use the fat that the bacon releases to cook the meat. So based on this instruction, I could have just used bacon fat that I already keep on reserve for cooking, or I suppose theoretically you could use any cooking fat, but I wanted to stick to her recipe as faithfully as possible to give it as much opportunity as possible to taste exactly like hers. And I figured regardless, the bacon's not going to go to waste because my son will be more than happy to eat it. So that's exactly what I did. I fried up some bacon, set it aside, and then we're moving on to the next step. Now that our bacon has evacuated the pan, we're supposed to add quote unquote 1 clove of garlic and saute it. You guys know I don't play that 1 clove stuff. So I threw in what my grandmother would call una exageración of garlic. And what we're going to do now is sear our boliche. And like I said, the peppers and onions that we used were just going to be part of the marinade. They're not actually part of the recipe, so you do not put them into the pot. I'm patting the meat down before I put it in to make it as dry as possible. The best way to get a good sear on your meat is to make sure it's as dry as it can be before it hits the hot oil. So I'm going to put it in the pot. Gonna give it maybe 4 to 5 minutes on medium heat in that bacon fat on each side, and that includes all of the sides, to get it as brown as possible, because when you're cooking, brown equals flavor. Since the meat is almost done searing, I'm gonna go ahead and prep for the next step in the process. My grandmother says you need the juice of 4 oranges. The oranges that she called for, which are naranjas de China, they're typically a little smaller than the ones I had, so I just used 2 of these big ol' oranges instead of the 4 she called for. You're also going to need half a cup of dry cooking wine. What you're pretty much going to do now is braise the meat in these liquids. Once you've got all of your liquids in the pot with your meat, you're gonna cover it, you're gonna lower the heat to medium-low, and you're gonna cook it, my grandmother says, hasta que esté blandito, until the meat is soft. For me, that took 2 hours on medium-low. Okay, that feels nice and blandito to me. So even though my grandma didn't expressly say to do this in the recipe, I know it's something that she does. I'm going to set the meat aside to rest for a minute, and while that's happening, I'm going to let the liquid in the pot reduce so that I can use it kind of as a gravy on top. Here I am cutting into the meat. I made some mashed potatoes for my husband to have it with so that he'd have something to soak up all that yummy gravy. I ended up having mine all on its own. I don't think you need anything for it, but yeah, if I could make a suggestion, some mashed potatoes or some white rice so that you can sop up all of that juice. Oh my goodness, it's delicious. All right, friends, I am very happy to say that it turned out absolutely delicious. As a matter of fact, my husband has already asked me what we need so that I can make it again before the end of the week. So I'm gonna go ahead and say it was a huge hit. I've gone ahead and compiled all the videos on my channel that have anything to do with my Cuban culture in a playlist aptly named My Cuban Culture. So I'm going to post a link to that up here in case you guys want to check it out. There's more cooking videos there, but then there's also videos where I talk about just our parties, for example, or our holiday celebrations. So just any sort of little bit of a glimpse into what makes me me. You're going to get a better understanding of it in that playlist. And I want to add more to that playlist. So throughout the year, I'm going to be keeping my eyes peeled for more opportunities to share recipes with you, more holiday celebrations and whatnot. If there's anything in particular about Cuban culture that you'd like to learn more about, let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to bring that information to you from my perspective, of course, because everyone is their own person and everyone does things in their own way. But I'm just really proud of my heritage and I love the idea of sharing any and every aspect of it with you all. Particularly if there's a Cuban recipe you'd like to see me do. I'd love to hear what you guys want to see next, so let me know that in the comments too. Thank you so much to Abuela for the recipe. It was wonderful, quedó riquísimo, and I'm definitely gonna make it again. And I want to thank all of you for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, I hope you'll please give it a big thumbs up. I'd also love it if you'd subscribe and click that notification bell because I post at least 3 times a week and I wouldn't want you to miss a minute. Thanks so much again for watching and buen provecho. Bye!